Oh, Lord have mercy. I got a lot to cover on this record. I thought this would be a relatively short video, but researching one aspect of a song leads to researching another and another and another, and the whole thing just kind of mushrooms. So I'm going to try to put together this video in a coherent whole as best as I can. Talking about the song at number 39, a lost 45. You probably not, chances are you might not have even heard this record. Donna Summer, Dinner with Gershwin, debuting at number 39 on my fantasy playlist, August 29th, 1987. Dinner with Gershwin. This was sort of a departure for Donna Summer. That's what I thought at the time. This was different for Donna Summer. The subject matter, very literary subject matter, and not as commercial as some of her previous records, those old disco hits from the 70s, in particular, Let's Dance and Hot Stuff and Bad Girl and Love to Love You Baby, although the one song I go back on Donna Summer that I fell in love with, her disco version, her dance version, a dance floor friendly version of Could It Be Magic, a cover of the Barry Manilow song back in the spring of '76. And then we get into the 80s and Love Is in Control, Finger on the Trigger in '82, The Wanderer in 1980, and there was Works Hard for the Money in 1983. But Dinner with Gershwin, this would be from her 13th album called All Systems Go. Now, here's the thing about this record. The fact that this is a bit different for Donna Summer, she is capable of, well, for lack of a better word, she's capable of diversifying. And this is somewhat reminiscent of a song she did back in the fall of 1982. It was off the same album as Love Is in Control. It was a runner-up to that record called State of Independence. And I was absolutely blown away by that record. It was more of a spiritual record. Quite a few. She did, of course, the singing, had a nice beat to it. And the chorus at the end of the record, people singing on that record, Lionel Richie, James Ingram was on it, and Christopher Cross sang. There was some famous people, Diana Ross, Dionne Warwick, they sang in the chorus of that record, State of Independence. State of Independence, radically different from some of her previous hits. State of Independence, by the way, was originally written by no other than John Anderson of Yes, along with Vangelis, the Greek musician, and they put it out themselves in '81, but then Donna Summer did a repeat performance. She did it in 1982 and only got as high as number 41 on Billboard's Hot 100. But boy, went to number 14 or 15 in England, went to number 1 in the Netherlands. Just a fantastic record. If you want to hear something, another shade of Donna Summer, check out that record, State of Independence. And Dinner with Gershwin kind of remind me a little bit of that, although obviously a different subject matter. Dinner with Gershwin by Donna Summer, debuting at number 39. It was not a big hit. I'll go ahead and give the chart stats. It was her last top 10 R&B hit. Went to number 10 R&B. Number 48 on Billboard's Hot 100. Went to number 13 in the UK. Not only that, she performed the song on Top of the Pops in England back in the fall of 1987, which probably helped it a great deal as far as its popularity in the UK is concerned. I'll go ahead and talk about how this album was made. Donna Summer was looking for several things. Well, first off, before I do that, Donna Summer, she was with the Casablanca record label back in the 70s, the premier disco label, although Kiss was on that label as well as another hard rock group called Angel, but the Village People was on it. Donna Summer, they were among the spearheads, the forefront of the disco era back in the mid to late 70s, well, especially the late 70s. But as the disco era flatlined in 1980, Donna Summer, she went to another record label, Geffen, a big record label. She signed with Geffen in 1980, and this is off the Geffen record label. Donna Summer wanted several things on this album in 1980. Considered that in 1987, she hadn't had a hit in about 3 years. and I forgot the last top 40 hit she had before she came out with this. It was back in 1984. I believe it was There Goes My Baby. She did a version of that, a Drifter. She redid the Drifter song. I remember seeing that one on Night Tracks. That was in the fall of '84. So this is 3 years down the road. Donna Summer was looking for several things on this album. Number one, she wanted sort of a gritty FM sound for this record. Just polished up and retrofitted for FM radio. She wanted more of an R&B sound on this album, more of an R&B feel on this album, and she wanted Howard Faltermeyer to produce. David Geffen obliged her. He hired Howard Faltermeyer. They got together and they produced the album. Howard Faltermeyer, he was an accomplished producer, musician back in the mid-'80s. You probably remember the song he did called Axel F in 1985. He was an up-and-coming producer, so it's probably a little wonder that Donna Summer wanted to take a chance on somebody new, somebody fresh. And Howard Faltermeyer, he had already scored on a couple of movies, Top Gun and Fletch, by the time he started working with Donna Summer in 1986, 1987. So they put the album together, they made the album. And when they finished the album, David Geffen, he listened to the album. He liked it. He thought it was pretty good. But his executive, I don't know what the word, let me find out. His executive team, that's what I was looking for. His executive team, they listened to the album afterwards, and they were not impressed with it. As a matter of fact, they were dismayed by the album. They did not hear any singles on it. They didn't hear anything that was really radio friendly on the album. Very few, if any, singles at all. Therefore, they decided that they wanted Faltermeyer to produce another song for Donna Summer called Dinner with Gershwin. But Howard Faltermeyer, he was already working on the soundtrack by the time they listened to the album and decided they wanted to go with Dinner with Gershwin. Dinner with Gershwin, they brought in another producer for Dinner for Gershwin. It was Richard Perry. Richard Perry, a producer from the 70s, really big producer back in the day, working with people like Harry Nilsson and Barbra Streisand, and co-producing the record Dinner with Gershwin, the woman who wrote the song, Brenda Russell. She wrote this thing, and she actually covered it later on the album that she put out several years later. Brenda Russell, who had that record So Good, So Right back in 1979. That was some smooth R&B, and also the smoldering, the atmospheric, shimmering Piano in the Dark that she came out with a decade later in 1988. So they put together Dinner with Gershwin. Howard Faltermeyer, when he found out that the executive team of Geffen, they were unhappy with the album, he was dismayed himself. He thought there was potential on some of the songs, single potential on some of the records on the album, including Fascination and Thinking About My Baby. But the people at Geffen thought otherwise. Dinner with Gershwin was put out as a single, and it did not make it very big for Donna Summer. But Donna Summer was not done. She probably would have benefited a little bit if she worked some with Howard Faltermeyer and also worked with other producers, say like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who were cranking out hit records, working with Janet Jackson. And I'm trying to think of another producer. There was another name, Narado Michael Walden, who produced Freeway of Love by Aretha Franklin. She probably would have benefited from working with those producers as well. And that's my thinking on this. If on this album she worked with Faltermeyer and, of course, Richard Perry on Dinner with Gershwin, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, if that were possible at all, and Narado Michael Walden. But 1989, she had another last hurrah for Donna Summer. She must have learned from the making of this album. She got together with the slamming British production team of Stock, Aitken, and Waterman Stock, Aiken, and Waterman, one of the big names in the production field, the music production field in the late 80s going into the 90s, that they were producing hit records for Bananarama, including, I believe it was Venus, and I Heard a Rumor, and they discovered, groomed, and produced hit records by 1987, 88, and 89 by Rick Ashley. They produced Donna Summer's last really big hit. This time I only know it's for real, which went top 10 in both the United States and England. A lot more commercial than Dinner with Gershwin. And it was definitely a throwback to some of her early hits, like She Works Hard for the Money in 1983. So at least she had that big comeback. Dinner with Gershwin, I listened to it for a few minutes before I made this video. Well, I listened to it a few minutes ago. It's just barely commercial enough, I think, for top 40. If it got more airplay, it didn't get that much airplay, at least not down here in the South anyway. But if it got a little bit more airplay, it probably would have done a little bit better here in the States. Maybe make top 20, but it's not in the commercial. It's not in that commercial, that radio-friendly. It doesn't share that radio-friendly space, along with her previous records like Hot Stuff. She Works Hard for the Money and Love to Love You, Baby. But it's a jam of a record just the same. And you just hear another side of Donna Summer that we don't often hear. So here we go at number 39, making its debut, Donna Summer with Dinner with Gershwin on this fancy playlist of August 29th, 1987.